All right, so let's go ahead and jump into example 1 here. Okay, so it says, so use the definition of the word percent to write each percent as a fraction and then as a decimal. Okay, so we've got percent, fraction, decimal, and the first one that it gives us is 37.5%. Okay, well, let's just remember percent means out of 100. So 37.5% means 37.5 out of 100. Okay, and as you guys know, bad form to have a decimal in a fraction. So what we can do is we can manipulate our fraction to get one with just integers. Okay, so well, there are many different things we could do here, but the most obvious one is to sort of just multiply top and bottom by 10. So what that does is this is going to give us a 375 on top and a 1,000 on the bottom. So we've got 375 thousandths. So now we have sort of a fraction with only integers in the numerator and denominator. Now it's obviously not reduced, but that's fine. So we're just going to go ahead and write 375 thousandths as our fraction. Okay. Well, 375 thousandths. Okay, so this is 0.375. Okay. Great. So the next one that we have is 100%. So 100%. So we have 100 out of 100. And, well, what's anything divided by itself? That is just 1. And since it wants a decimal, we'll go ahead and write 1.0. Same thing. Okay. Next, we have 110%. Okay, so now we have something that's more than 100%. So think what kind of fraction is this going to look like, or what kind of decimal is this going to be? Okay, so 110% means 110 out of 100. Okay, it is an improper fraction, so it is going to be greater than 1. Okay, and that sort of hopefully clicks with you guys because we had something, it was greater than 100%. Now remember, percentages is just like fractions is a part to a whole relationship. Well, that whole is, so 100% is the whole. So 100% of anything is all of it, right? So if you're bigger than 100%, then you have more than the whole. Just like with an improper fraction, you know, the numerator is bigger than the denominator. Exact same concept here. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn this into a decimal. So 110 over 100. Well, they're both divisible by 10, so we can drop off one of the zeros here and get 11 over 10. Okay, and 11 divided by 10 is just going to give us 1.1. Okay, so now that we have a few of these up here, I want to look at sort of the relationship between the percent and the decimal. Okay, they look pretty similar, right? So 37.5% is equal to 0.375, right? So 100% is the same as 1.0. 110% is the same as 1.1. And let me just add, so remember on the backs of decimals, we can always add zeros. So hopefully now you guys can see that, you know, converting from percent to decimal is just shifting the decimal place. And this has a lot to do with, you know, multiplying and dividing by powers of 10 in the number system that we use. It just works out really nicely that it just shifts the decimal place back and forth, okay? So let's look at 37.5%. So in the percent, the decimal is here, between the 7 and the 5. But over here, it's between, well, it's before the 3. So what it really looks like is the decimal hopped over two spots. So now we have 0.375. Throw a 0 in there just for good measure. Same with this one. The decimal was here, and it jumped over here. Okay? Same thing happened with this one. Okay? The decimal was here. Now it's here. Okay? So let's sort of use that to jump right into the next one. Okay, so we have 1%, which means 1 out of 100. Okay, and if we have 1, well, 1 is the same as 1.0, right? So if we shift the decimal place, if we shift the decimal 2 places to the left, 1, 2, well, you get this number, but within this gap, we need to put a 0. And you know what? We'll throw a 0 in the front anyway. 0.01. All right, and let's get into the last one. So we have 1/2%. Okay, 1/2%. So it's definitely easy to just jump right into this and say, half a percent. Oh, it's 50, right? Well, no, we got to be careful. Remember, percent means out of 100, so whatever is in front of the percent sign, we need to take that out of 100. So we have 1/2 out of 100. Okay? So this is what is called a complex fraction. So we have a fraction in a fraction, where either the numerator or the denominator in a fraction is itself a fraction. There are lots of different ways to deal with this. So one way to get this sort of back into a regular fraction, where we just have integers in the numerator and the denominator, well, we can just multiply by, say, a factor of whatever the denominator of the fraction that's inside your fraction is, okay? So that denominator in our case is 2. So I could just multiply top and bottom by 2 and be done with it. Instead, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 10, just to sort of show you guys something. So, well, if I multiply 1/2 by 10, well, let's just do it over here. So we have 1/2 times 10. Remember, 10 is the same as 10 over 1. So we get 1 times 10, which is 10 over 2. So you get 10/2. But 10 divided by 2, or 10/2, is the same thing as 5. Okay? So if I multiply 1/2 by 10, I get 5. And if I multiply 100 by 10, I get 1,000. Okay? So I get 5 thousandths. Okay? And what that is going to give us is, well, 0.005. Okay, and now you say, well, how does that reconcile with what we were just talking about, right? So, going from a percent to a decimal is just as simple as moving the decimal 2 points to the left, 2 places to the left. Well, where is the decimal in 1/2? Well, you have to remember that 1/2 is the same as 0.5. So 1/2% is the same as 0.5%. And now we have something with a decimal point in it, and so if we move that 2 places to the right, we do in fact get 0.005.